It is April 24th, 2024, and I have three interesting articles on growth and marketing to cover today. First up, MarTech entrepreneur Jon Miller looks at the 95-5 rule, and I think you'll be interested in what he finds when he digs a little deeper. Then, Jonathan Bland, co founder of Omni Lab, looks at common reporting mistakes and the issues they cause within organizations. And finally, we'll wrap up with a report from Databox, ActiveCampaign, and Duct marketing on the state of fractional CMOs. And it leads me to wonder, are fractional CMOs being set up for success or not? Okay, let's get started. All right, let's take a look at this article by Jon Miller on the 95-5 rule and what he found when he looked a little deeper. He starts his post with this unicorn picture, which is definitely eye-catching, though maybe a little creepy. And I should say, I was literally putting words in a document on a very similar article about the 95-5 rule, and when this came across my feed. But he did a great job with it. So I figured I'd just hop on his article and just add my commentary. But I may go more in depth in the future about the 95-5 rule. It's kind of like this is kind of like me with my business ideas. Like I'm sure I came up with the idea for both Airbnb and Facebook and Reddit before they launched. But it just goes to show you it's all about the execution, not just the idea. All right, 95% of B2B buyers are not in the market for your products, known as the 95-5 rule. This fact has been making waves in B2B, but is it really the unshakable truth it's been made out to be? Miller goes on to say, I've been referencing that stat for over a year to illustrate that our go-to-market strategies have been over-rotated into demand generation and performance marketing at the expense of brand building. We have focused on short-term metrics and quick wins, neglecting the importance of establishing a strong brand presence and cultivating buyer relationships over time. Now, I feel a lot of people are feeling this, that have been too focused on performance and neglecting brand. And so I think that's why the 95-5 rule is really resonating with people. But hold on, Miller says. When did this become a rule, a universal law we accept at face value? Just because a statistic is cited frequently and sounds authoritative doesn't mean we should blindly accept it. The rule originates from a single paper published in 2021, Advertising Effectiveness and the 95-5 Rule, sponsored by the LinkedIn B2B Institute and written by John Dawes of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute to investigate B2B advertising effectiveness. Notably, this paper didn't refer to specific research to come up with the 95-5 rule. Instead, it's a simple estimate based on the average inter-purchase time, which is the amount of time between purchases for a category. If your market only purchases once every 5 years, then in any year, only 20% will be in market, and in any given quarter, only 5%. So it's a very simple calculation in terms of calculating the 95-5 rule and not based on data. And says within the article, this is not really a rule at all. It's more of a heuristic to get you to understand that we're just investing too much in performance marketing because there's so few active buyers and we should be investing more in brand. So it's a heuristic to help you understand that concept, but not really a rule at all. And even the math upon which it's based is not scientific. It's just helping you understand how he's reaching that conclusion. Miller says, but I'd argue they created a misperception by using rule in the title, and pundits like me have exacerbated the problem by referring to the finding imprecisely. And so that's absolutely true. When you think rule, you think this is actually how it functions. It's like a law, but it's not that at all. And this is really raises some challenges. And especially when I look at the 95-5 rule, because it's causing people to make mistakes in their marketing. There's a couple of things I see. One is that because it's not a rule, it doesn't there's no statistical support that only 5% of people are active buyers. It could be the case. I mean, I think the percentage of active buyers is actually quite small. I've heard 3% before, 5%. There's some data out there saying it's 7%, and it does switch by category, but it's really quite small. So the general principle holds, but it's not universally true. And we had a client that was in lease accounting, and lease accounting compliance regulations changed. And so when the regulation changed, everyone all of a sudden needed a solution for lease accounting compliance. And so the percentage of active buyers is way more than 5%. If our client made decisions because they said, oh, 95.5 is a rule, they would have missed out on a ton of opportunity because the actual number of active buyers, because of that regulation, shot through the roof. And so they needed to do performance marketing to try to capture them. But on the flip side, it's also true that we've had clients where there wasn't even 5% of the people who were active buyers, and they should have been investing much more in brand. And so they were in a new category. No one was searching for what they were doing. People just weren't aware of it. And they really needed to build out understanding and knowledge about what this product was. And so they were saying, hey, let's do demand generation, let's do performance marketing. And it wasn't going to work. It didn't matter how much we spent on it because no one was in an active buying mode. They really need to be educated first. So the 95/5 rule being presented as a rule can have challenges both ways. One is you can underinvest in your performance marketing, or you could overinvest in your performance marketing. The other thing that I see with the 95/5 rule is people say, oh, only 5% of my website visitors, because of the 95/5 rule, only 5% of my visitors are actually active buyers. Or they'll say only 5% of my leads are ready to sign up for my product because of this rule. It doesn't apply to your website visitors, it doesn't apply to your leads at all. So people really need to stop using the rule in that way. I mean, for instance, imagine that you're mattress shopping, and I think the average replacement on a mattress is 8 years. And so the percentage of people who are actually in market is even under 5%. But if you applied the rule to people who are actually in the mattress store, you'd be wrong. The people in the mattress store are much more likely to buy than the general population. And so people cannot use the 95/5 rule to look at website traffic or leads. So anyway, at the end of the day, think about the 95/5 rule. I think the general principle that we need to invest more in brand and the number of people who are active buyers is actually quite small, but this isn't a scientific rule. It's more of a suggestion, something supporting you know, allowing you to understand that there's very few buyers out there. So even though it's called the 95/5 rule, it's not really a rule at all. Okay, let's take a look at this post from Jonathan Bland, who's co-founder of Omni Lab. He starts off by saying, a quote, it shows 1.43 million in pipeline created in Q1, not 1.73 million CEO, which is not what you want to hear from your CEO. You want the numbers to be accurate. But Bland says reporting discrepancies happen all the time. And then he goes on to provide some examples of why it happens. Filters. You filtered out non ICP fit leads, the person you're comparing against. They are looking at all inbound leads. X and Y. You're using a recent conversion date. They set the date as the opportunity, as the date the opportunity was created. Time period. You're looking at April 3rd through April 21st, and they're looking at April 1st through April 21st. And finally, the attribution model. You're using first touch and they're using multi-touch model. And so this, when your filters and when your criteria is different, then it's obviously going to cause your data not to match. Land says, I say this to my team all the time. We all need to be reading from the same sheet of music. As soon as someone says, I have a different number than you, then your first question should be, please send me a link to your report. I Ideally, everyone at your company shares one executive dashboard to review number of high intent leads, inbound opportunities, etc. But sometimes it's just fun creating a one-off reports. But this is so critical to grow your business. What I've found is that when there's disagreement over the data, the discussions are around the data, not about what the solution is or how to grow better. And if you don't fix this, it's just going to be an ongoing discussion and it leads to a lot of contention within organizations. So, getting the data right, aligning on one set of data is absolutely critical to scaling your business. And it's worth investing the time to make sure it's accurate and you get general agreement from everyone in terms of what reports you're going to use. You should be able to go to anyone in the executive team and ask them questions about your marketing performance, and they should all come back with the same answer. They shouldn't have to go to someone to get that answer. They should be able to find one location where they're like, how many MQLs were created this month, or how many opportunities were created this month. That should be available to your entire leadership team, and they should all be able to access it directly. So there's no discussion in terms of of where the data came from, and you can have real discussions about how to drive growth. Let's take a look at this article on the benefits of hiring a fractional chief marketing officer, perspectives of agencies, buyers, and FCMOs from Databox, which they did in conjunction with ActiveCampaign and Duct Marketing. Now, goes into a lot of depth in terms of it talks to fractional CMOs, it talks to clients of those fractional CMOs, it has individual quotes. But what really interested me here was looking at the client perspective on fractional CMOs, because it really raised a question to me, like looking at their answers about whether fractional CMOs can be successful based on how clients are viewing them. And so they talked to 24 companies that have either hired a fractional CMO or considering hiring a fractional CMO. And so this is how have the following factors influence or are influencing your decision to hire a fractional CMO for your company? And so the company said we need specialized expertise, and then they're looking at cost effectiveness compared to a full-time CMO. What they're not looking at, and what's lower, is desired for unbiased strategic guidance and need someone to manage agencies and team members. And the reason why this concerns me is because what these companies are looking for is growth. If we look down here, they say, what are the things you want out of a fractional CMO? And they say digital marketing first, strategic planning, and then below that are things like brand development, campaign management, marketing analytics. And so when I look at this data, it really makes me think that fractional CMOs' hands are being tied, because what these companies are looking for is essentially a band-aid for their growth. And that's why they're focused on digital marketing first. That's why they're looking for specialized expertise. The challenge, as we all know, is that you need, in order for marketing to work effectively, it needs to be a comprehensive effort. It develops this flywheel effect. You need to look at all these factors, but these companies are focused on very specific things and then taking out the need to manage agencies and team members. The fractional CMO is going in with their hands tied. So the company wants them to drive growth and wants them to focus on the things that are going to drive growth, but is taking away from them or doesn't want them to prioritize other factors that are really fundamental to growth, but that the companies may not understand. And so going into a relationship as a fractional CMO without being able to manage the team, without really being valued in terms of your strategic planning and some of these other factors, but really say, hey, what can you do from a digital marketing perspective? What can you do to drive results? But taking away some of these key things that are required for a fully effective marketing effort, it just means fractional CMOs may have a tough time actually driving growth the way that they can if they're giving the ability to control and manage all these factors. So anyway, if you're hiring a fractional CMO, don't be constrained in terms of what you're thinking about what they can do. Allow them to have the opportunity to develop a full marketing strategy, which includes brand, which includes performance marketing, which includes some of the foundational elements, and then also includes allowing them to manage the team and resources that are available. And if you're a fractional CMO, just make sure you're clear in terms of how you're going to achieve best results. It's not just about tweaking tactics at the top of the funnel. It's about really developing this comprehensive strategy that starts from the foundation, goes up through strategy, goes up through brand, goes up through tactics. And so you need to be able to have control over all of those things to be fully effective. Anyway, so I thought this data was interesting. And good luck to all of you companies looking for fractional CMOs out there, and good luck to you fractional CMOs out there. Hope we can make this work so we can all drive growth together.